Peru Common Council meeting for July 1st, 2019 to order. We'll have the Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilman Kroskoff and then invocation by Pastor Jay.
Okay. Sit back down for me, please. Sit back down.
That's okay.
Back down. Do something different here. 4th of July is this Thursday, and I've heard this when I was a little boy, and I'd like to read it today prior to the Pledge of Allegiance. The following words were spoken by the late Red Skelton on his television program January 14, 1969, as he related the story of his teacher, Mr. Laswell, who thought his students had come to think of the Pledge of Allegiance as merely something to recite in class each day. Now more than ever, listen to the meaning of his words. I've been listening to you boys and girls recite the Pledge of Allegiance all semester, and it seems as though it's becoming monotonous to you. If I may, I would like to recite it and try to explain to you the meaning of each word. I, me, an individual, a committee of one. Pledge, dedicate all my worldly goods to give without self-pity. Allegiance, my love and my devotion. To the flag, our standard, Old Glory, the symbol of freedom. Wherever she waves, there's respect because your loyalty has given her a dignity that shouts freedom is everybody's job. Of the united, that means that we have all come together. States, individual communities that have formed into 48 great states, 48 individual communities with pride and dignity and purpose, all divided and imaginary boundaries, yet united in a common purpose, and that's love for country. And to the Republic, a state in which sovereign power is invested in representatives chosen by the people to govern. And government is the people, and it's from the people to the leaders, not from the leaders to the people. For which it stands, one nation under God. One nation, meaning so blessed by God. Indivisible, incapable of being divided. With liberty, which is freedom, the right of power to live one's own life without threats, fear, or some sort of retaliation. And justice, the principle or quality of dealing fairly with others. For all, which means, boys and girls, it's much as your country as it is mine. And now, boys and girls, let me hear you recite the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you, Councilman.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
DJ.
Over here?
Wherever.
Right here?
Yep.
Well, I appreciate that, what you shared with us today. That's what our country's all about. Father God, we come before you today just invoking your presence and your blessing upon this meeting today. I thank you for these men and women who have dedicated themselves to serving this city and who have committed themselves to doing the best for Peru, Indiana that they can. And I pray that you will guide and direct them today, that we will each have hearts of service as we discuss the situations and the circumstances that need to be dealt with today, and that your holy presence will just fill this place, that we'll know if we're saying something wrong and we'll repent of it right then, and instead seek to find your perfect will in all that we do, for the glory of your Son, Jesus Christ, who died for our sin. Amen.
Amen.
And one more thing then, as you heard me say, he said there were 48 states, and he finished it with, since I was a small boy, 2 states have been added to our country, and 2 words have been added to the Pledge of Allegiance, under God. Wouldn't it be a pity if someone said that that is a prayer and that it would be eliminated from schools? Thank you. Roll call.
Holland.
Here.
Dustin.
Here.
Lee.
Here.
Allie.
Here.
Bowman. Langwell. Here. Kroskoff.
Here.
Okay. And so we're just missing one today. read the reading and correcting of the journal.
Move we suspend the rules and dispense with the reading and correcting of the journal.
It's been moved by Councilman Crosskoff and second by Councilman Guston. Dispense the rules and the reading and correcting of the journal. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have communications. We do have Brooke here, and I spoke to Mr. Tidd about the economic development department that we're creating. So I think between the two of us, we should be able to answer any question about that. But basically what we need is an appointment to a 3-person board that is going to give their approval or disapproval of the recommendation on incentives by a TIP district that's in the county. So the board will consist of an appointment by county commissioners, an appointment by the county council, and then an appointment by the city council. And I think this specifically is about a potential developer out at the base. And we're looking at the county's looking at using some TIP funds to incentivize this company to come here. So, but to do it, they need this board for oversight.
Do you mean to explain why we're doing it?
Sure. I didn't know how much you wanted to.
Okay. The time frame on this project is pretty quick, and normally when you pledge to...
Hang on.
Sorry.
Now talk.
Okay. So the time frame on this project's really, really quick. Not a lot of turnaround time, and normally when you pledge TIP dollars, you do it through a bond. We don't have 6 to 8 months to go through the bond process. So the second way you can do that is to create this economic development department. It's basically a buffer between Economic Development Authority, or for us, the Redevelopment Commission, and the County Council. So there's a buffer in there to monitor the project and kind of give their yay or nay and make sure everything's going the way it should be. So like you said, the county commissioners appointed someone today, County Council did it at their last meeting, and then we need one from the city. And this is going to happen pretty quick in July, so just so you know.
How quickly in July? Next 2 weeks?
Yes, before the county council meeting,
Which is when?
July 16th, I believe.
So it happened before then? Okay,
The commission will have to meet before then.
okay.
And they have the public hearing, so everything's going to be quick.
You want to do it or not? I can do it, I don't care.
If you feel like it, go ahead.
I can fill it out until the end of the year. Okay?
Great, thank you.
I was just asking the date because I'm going on vacation the 22nd, so I wanted to make sure it was going to be done before then.
Well, I move we appoint Kurt as our representative.
I'll second that.
It's been,
Okay?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Well, that was pretty good. That was good, that was good, okay.
That is official.
That's all official.
okay. Next, we have...
Thank you, Brooke.
Thank you.
Next, we have unfinished business.
Wait a second, I got communications.
That's what we're in?
No, Cheryl, reports and things.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, this is Peru Civic Center, June 20, 2019. Guests served 477, meals, 88 meals, taken in $882 per meals, rent was $380, catering was up $1,140, amount returned to city $481.10. So I just appreciate, got almost a full calendar, so I appreciate everyone that continued to support the Peru Civic Center. Thank you.
Very good.
Good month, yes.
And the rest of your communications are attached to your packets, so you can look at those at your leisure. Okay, now we're going.
Under unfinished business, we have none. So we have new business, ordinance 10, 2019.
Ordinance 10, 2019, and ordinance to amend ordinance 28, 2016.
Move we consider ordinance 10, 2019.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilman Crosskoff and seconded by Councilman Guston to consider ordinance 10, 2019. Roll call.
Holland?
Yes.
Guston?
Yes.
Lee?
Yes.
Hallie?
Yes.
Bowman?
Yes.
Langwell?
Yes.
Crosskoff?
Yes. Move we adopt ordinance 10, 2019.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilman Crosskoff and seconded by Councilman Guston to adopt ordinance 10, 2019.
So we're just changing some fees for,
The police department's going to start using body cameras, and per state statute, we go by public records request and fees that we can charge, and the fee for that's $150, and that's, again, per Indiana code. So we need that to be reflected in our ordinance, and that's what this amendment does.
okay. Mr. Meeks, anything to add to that?
I want to talk about body-worn cameras if I could, but...
Sure, come on.
What about this?
If this, might as well talk about it now.
Kind of ties into it a little bit, but... Back on January 1st, 2016, when I was fortunate enough to be appointed chief of police, one of the things that I put in my budget was body-worn cameras, and the council was amazing in passing that and allowed that to happen. It's around $16,500 per year, which may sound like a lot, but when you have your first lawsuit, you're getting sued for $100,000 and you have to settle out of court, it's going to be well worth it, in my opinion. So you're talking $81,000 over the next 5 years. I went ahead and brought a body camera in just so each of you can kind of see it. Please don't turn it on and record yourselves or anything like that. This is the magnet that we use with it. It's pretty good. So, I mean, they will, you put one behind your shirt, you put that in front of your shirt, and that just clicks on. But please also don't click it on, because if you put it on the wrong way, you can break the attachment. So this is pretty light and flimsy, as you can tell, but that's the way the body camera works. And just so you know, we've already had, we started letting the guys kind of test them, use them in the last 3 weeks. We had a juvenile that we dealt with, 15-year-old juvenile that was having some issues with his mom, throwing some things around the house. And 3 officers went in wearing body-worn cameras. The boy had locked himself in a bathroom when the officers had to end up kicking the door down to make sure he was okay. He had a knife to his throat. So the body-worn cameras were rolling the whole time. So it ended well, everything went good, but it's one of those deals where if we would have had to tase this young man and maybe a relative would have caught wind of it or something would have happened, and then they would have wanted to sue us, and we'd end up on Fox 59 or another news channel, we would have been able to say, here you go, here's the body-worn camera footage for this. So the only other example I have right now, too, that we can talk about maybe is we had a business owner come in. One of his employees had an issue with a customer, and basically said that he didn't feel like the police did their job on this call, that we didn't follow up well. Looked at the body-worn camera footage, and the employee that we spoke to said, hey, I don't want anything done, my boss just made me call. So just to get right go to that guy and say, okay, I understand you're upset, you don't think the police did their job, but we did do our job, and here's the camera footage on this. So 2 minor things, not so serious things, ended up being minor, but could have turned into something a little bit ugly for us. You know, if that person would have wanted to get on Facebook and say, hey, the police aren't doing their job, and they didn't do this, and they didn't do that, we now have video footage to show that we are doing our job. So guys are taking well to it. We are going to hopefully pass a standard operating procedure tomorrow, where it's going to mandate that every officer turn the camera on with every citizen encounter. So we actually, we learned from the South Bend incident that it's probably not a bad idea to have it on every single time. We considered maybe not doing it during like unlocks of cars, or maybe when we check a VIN check on a car, but we also thought something can happen in an instant, and we want to make sure that we're recording everything that we can. So that's just kind of my rundown about the body-worn cameras. I just wanted to thank the council once again for allowing us to get those. And you may say, well, why did you wait from January 1st all the way to July of 19 to get it implemented? And that's because the state was trying to make a decision on how long you had to retain records, and you see them, and how often a person can come in, and how often you had to make a recording. So there was a lot of issues that the state of Indiana had to work through. So once they worked through that, which was probably mid-year last year, we decided to go ahead and roll with it, and here we are right now. So I'm pretty excited about having those, and I think it's kind of almost like an insurance policy for the city of Peru, in my opinion, and I think it's going to work out well for us. So,
On another positive note, on that instance where they had to kick in the door, one of the officers went back and fixed the door on his own time for the family, so.
Yeah. Yeah, we actually had another.
Mike, I had a couple questions on this body cam.
Certainly.
How long a recording time does that carry?
We were told 12 hours.
And the battery's good for how often does that have to be charged up?
It's a lithium battery. We suggest that, well, actually, our policy is going to be that they either have to charge it at the end of their shift, before the beginning of their next shift.
And each officer has issued his own, so nobody's sharing?
That's correct.
Okay.
And
And then how often are you going to download it? Is it going to be a nightly thing that's downloaded to the whatever server?
it actually goes into the cloud, so yeah.
Okay,
it's a
that's
nightly
what I
thing.
was wondering, how it was stored. So, and then every night, and then how long does the storage last, and forever? And
We can make it last forever, correct, yes, but.
well, I can tell you that there's been things that with security cameras that something wasn't found out at that particular time, where a month later I realized, hey, something over here is missing, and you have to go back a month to find out what happened to that, and then you realize it was 2 months ago. And so that's what I was asking, how long you planned on storing things, how much storage is there, and if that was included, then is that included in the 16,000?
It is, yes. Actually, the software program, I've actually talked to Mr. Kern here and also Mr. Sinkovich, our prosecutor, about retentions.
Right.
And so by state law, we have to retain it at a minimum 190 days.
Okay.
And what that does, that also protects the city, because if somebody files a tort claim against us, they have 180 days to do so. So that gives us that 10 extra day
That's
buffer,
the-
that if we see a tort
better.
claim come in, we're going to tag that and keep that forever. And then misdemeanors we'll keep for 2 years, felonies we'll keep for 5 years, certain felonies we're going to keep longer. But we'll basically get the advice of the prosecutor's office. If they say, okay, that case has been resolved, you can delete that video, then we will do
That's
so.
what I want.
But your typical calls, your traffic stops, and those things that amount to nothing will automatically go away in 190 days.
That's, because somebody could say that something happened 2 months from now, and we deleted that a month ago, even though it never happened. Okay.
Thanks,
Mikey. Thank you.
The service cost themselves, if I'm not mistaken, the cameras are free, but it's the storage and
Okay.
the data, software that's actually being paid for.
Awesome.
Thank you.
So are you going to wear one of those when you jog?
No.
Okay.
You don't want to see that.
Uniform then, yeah. So what would cause someone, for instance, to have to come pay the $150? Or would it be somebody's lawyer that'd be requesting it?
Be a lawyer, I'm
Public
sure.
records request, or, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, wouldn't that also eliminate people just constantly coming in wanting copies of?
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, Mike, I guess we didn't talk about this. Are the dogs going to wear the body camera?
GoPros.
Our dogs would.
My dog's very
GoPros.
Maybe not a bad idea.
We've actually considered putting those on our dogs.
Yeah.
When I take mine hunting, he has one on also.
So if I understand it correctly, then even if somebody comes in to get a police report on, they don't have to necessarily pay, if you do a VIN check, they don't have to get the footage for that.
No.
They come in and get their paperwork, or just something stupid at all. They don't necessarily, that's only if they require video.
Putting it
they have
onto a
to-
disk or some
Okay.
type of media software.
Okay.
Yeah.
And there's still the public records access. They can still come in and view it. So if they want the recording, then we will make that.
Well, they'll just pull out their cell phone and they'll record it and say,
Exactly what I expect they will do.
yeah, so that maybe needs to be put in there that,
That wouldn't be an official copy of it. If they
yeah,
were,
that could be something, a rule they can make, yeah.
Anything further? Roll call.
Holland,
Yeah.
Gaston,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Alley,
Yes.
Bowman,
Yes.
Langwell.
Yes.
Krauskopf.
Yes.
And the motion passes. We have a request to add ordinance 11, 2019 to tonight's agenda. That's something council is willing to do.
I move we add ordinance 11, 2019 to the agenda for...
Second.
Right here.
Then moved by Councilman Crosskoff and seconded by Councilman Weston to add ordinance 11, 2019 to the agenda. All in favor?
Last 2 pages.
Do we have that?
It should be the last 2 pages on the agenda that had
Just passed it out. Just
Oh,
get
okay.
rid of it to you.
Okay, I see.
Just roll call.
Yes.
Holland.
Well, wait a minute.
We're just adding it to the
add it.
agenda.
Okay.
This is
yes.
just to add
Pay
it.
attention, catch up.
Well, I was trying to find it. Sorry. Just gotta get to the agenda.
Holland.
Yes.
Okay. Gaston,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Alley,
Yes.
Bowman,
Yes.
Langwell.
Yes.
Krauskopf.
Yes. Move we consider ordinance 11, 2019.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilman Crosskoff and seconded by Councilman Weston to consider ordinance 11, 2019. Roll call.
Holland,
Yes.
Gaston,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Alley,
Yes.
Bowman,
Yes.
Langwell.
Yes.
Krauskopf.
Yes. Move we adopt ordinance 11, 2019. Somebody answered that doorbell? second?
Second. Okay. It's moved by Councilman Grosskopf and seconded by Councilman Justin to adopt ordinance 11, 2019.
Okay. And we are doing what?
So this is a recommendation by the State Board of Accounts. And what it is, it'll allow the clerk, or the, yeah.
Speak closer to the microphone, please.
Sorry, it'll allow the clerk's office and the clerk, specifically the city's fiscal officer, to make certain, or pay certain claims prior to the board approval, and those are set out by state statute and also listed in this ordinance, such as license fees, permits, payments for property purchase or lease from the United States government or a political subdivision, utility payments or connection charges, insurance premiums, federal grant programs, advance funding that's not prohibited, and contracting party. Also with grants with state funds, maintenance agreements or service agreements, lease agreements or rental agreements, principal and interest payments on bonds, payroll, county, federal, state taxes, if applicable, expenses because of emergency situations, and then expenses described in an ordinance, like if we had something special. Also, there's certain processes that have to be in place. Obviously, we have to have this ordinance in place to do that. What happens is, in the event like payroll, it's paid every other Friday. I mean, sometimes we only have 2 Board of Works meetings in a month, and payroll gets paid without prior board approval, and it needs board approval in that situation. So this is what the State Board of Accounts recommended we do to avoid situations like that.
Okay. So it is allowing the clerk treasurer to pay certain bills that are delineated right there prior to Board of Works approval.
Right.
Nothing else.
Right. But then,
Those APBs will still be run through the Board of Works.
True,
for
yeah,
approval.
but
Yes.
after the fact, they will be
Right.
approved after the fact. Any questions? Make sense? Question audience? Roll call.
Holland?
Yes.
Justin?
Yes.
Lee?
Yes.
Alley?
Yes.
Bowman?
Yes.
Langwell?
Yes.
Krauskopf?
Yes.
All right, motion passes. Is there anything else?
You said something about our audit that we just finished?
Yep.
And everything's over?
Yep, they're cleaning out the conference room, so we'll get that back.
Yeah. We had the exit conference today. Councilman Holland, Councilman Bowman, and Councilwoman Lee were there for that exit conference. Everything went very well. I'm very pleased.
Hats off to you guys for only having some little minor,
Yeah.
pretty much the auditor of the state said you guys did, it was amazing to only have 3 little things there.
He did say that, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
2 and 4 years?
Yeah. That's impressive.
Thank you very
Especially
much.
walking into something new.
Right.
That's real impressive.
I move we adjourn.
Second. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? We're out.